say that.
You said it exactly right.
In the merit.
So
¿A qué hora es? Está allá en camino, nada menos adelantarla.
¿De quién lo pegan?
Otra vez. Esta vez estéticamente.
okay, so this class should be in honor of the complete refuah shlema and health of, what's her Hebrew name and her mother's name?
Gabriela Gita Bat Shlime Frime.
Gabriela Gita Vas Shlima.
Not Ashkenazi at all.
No, definitely not.
Yo no podría pronunciarlo.
We're looking forward to hearing amazing news today.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amén.
And there's no reason that shouldn't be anything less than amazing.
Amén. Amén.
That's the way we roll. Es el mismo. Pero si yo puse porque people wanted the Hebrew version. So I made the Hebrew version, but this has the English on the back. Instead of the other one, which was just two English versions.
¿Cómo?
Okay, so let's do very quick, no questions allowed, so that we can move forward. The beginning, the first line is the Tanakh, that is the written Torah, Torah Nevi'im Ketuvim. It's a total of 24 books. 5 books of the Torah was given by Hashem to Moshe. 8 books of the Nevi'im were written over the time frame starting from coming into the land of Israel up until building the second temple. So that's, I forgot what number we gave, but that's should be about 900 years, something like that. The Ketuvim were written at the same time as the Nevi'im, but they're a different style primarily. And they, that's the Ketuvim. They include Tehillim, the 5 Megillot, which is Ruth, Shir Hashirim, Kohelet, Eicha, and one more, Esther. Thank you. Those are the Ketuvim.
How many books?
And there's 11 books. So it's 5, 8, 11, totaling 24 books. That is what we call the written Torah. All of the written Torah is written with some level of prophecy or another. The 5 books of the Torah is written with complete prophecy, letter for letter, word for word, whereas the Nevi'im and Ketuvim are inspired by prophecy, but they're not necessarily letter for letter, word for word, directly the words Hashem asked to be written. So that's the Tanakh, that's the written Torah. Also, one last thing is that all of the 613 mitzvot come only from the Torah, from the 5 books of the Torah. We skip the next line, which is Mechilta, Sifra, Sifri, Zohar, Midrashim, because in terms of the time, they actually come later. They just the best way to show it visually was the way they've showed it here, but in terms of time, it comes later. We spoke last week at length about the method of transmission of how the oral Torah.
Sorry, one question. Why?
Which part of no questions you don't understand? Go ahead. What question?
I understand that this comes later in time, but why was it positioned here?
Because it's all it's you need to see how it relates to these specific books. So, for example, the Zohar is on all 5 books of the Torah only. The Mechilta is on Shemot. Sifra is on Vayikra. Sifri is Bamidbar Devarim. And the Midrashim can be always on an explanation of any of the 24 books of the written Torah. Right? You see how that works? Okay. We didn't get into the books so much last week. We really spoke about the content and the methodology of how the oral Torah made it until it was finally written down. Okay, and the oral Torah basically is the 600, basically, because it's more than this, but we're using the basic version, the 613 mitzvot, but instead of having just the highlight version, which is what's found in the Torah, it has all of the details. And we spoke about how the details were passed down. We didn't say that yet. You're not wrong, but we didn't say it yet. We spoke about how it's possible that it made it for 1,800 years approximately from the time it was originally given to Moshe till it came down to the Mishnah, which we'll speak about soon. We spoke about why, perhaps, and was my theory, why Hashem chose to not write it down. And we spoke about some of the content. There's one area of content that I didn't mention. We didn't get to last week. I just want to comment on it before we go into the mission itself. And that is, there's a certain amount that was made up by the rabbis. I was telling you everything last week that was not made up by the rabbis, and trying to explain how it's possible that it still came to our till that was written down. But there was a certain amount that was made up by the rabbis. And that is essentially 3 sections. And this we'll spend a little more time on before we hit the mission itself, but it's worth it to spend the time, and feel free to ask as many questions as you want on this part.
3 things.
3 topics, let's say. One topic is what we call takanot.
Sorry, it was given 1,800 years.
It was given to Moshe. And the Mishnah wasn't written for another 1,800 years about.
Por 1800 años fue de boca en boca enseñada al profesor.
Exactly.
Dorvador.
So takanot was for all different reasons. The rabbis saw something going wrong in Jewish society. Much of it is highly religious. Much of it's not exactly religious, but it interplays with religion. And therefore, they made a takana. A takana is a okay, so takana, it doesn't literally mean a fence, but yes, that is the fence that's described in the Mishnah. A takana is a edict, or there's a proper word for it, it's not coming to my mind now.
Amendment.
Something like that. It's a ruling. It's not really an amendment, because it doesn't yes. So, for example, the most famous example is the Torah speaks about not eating milk and meat, although it doesn't say those words. The literal words is don't put a baby animal in its mother's milk. But we know through the oral Torah that it means all milk and all meat. The rabbis added chicken or birds. Okay? For various reasons, they felt that was important. So that would be called a takana. The rabbis added something. Ask. You have a question in your brain.
No, it's not a fence, so I don't understand. It's kind of like a boundary, like a...
It's the way to think about it, well, it's not always true, but mostly true. It's, imagine you visit the, what's the big waterfall? The Niagara Falls. They don't make the fence to Niagara Falls on the falls. You make it 10 feet behind or 15 feet behind. So that's what it is. It's making it a little stricter.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like a lot stricter, but that's what it is. Other examples might be there's a mitzvah in the Torah that on the 7th year, all debts are meant to be forgiven. So what happens? Comes to year 6 and 7, and everybody with cash doesn't want to lend it out, which means that business comes to a halt. So that's what happened. So the rabbis decided we're going to create a loophole that's going to allow people to collect their debts. It's called the pruzbol. Pruzbol is this loophole that basically the debt becomes assigned to the court, and the court has the right to collect it even if it's the 7th year. And then the court returns it to the lender. Okay, so there were things that had to be not because the Torah isn't perfect, but because people aren't perfect. So people needed extra things added. So those are called takanot.
But then it changes the...
Sometimes.
This changed the idea.
Sometimes.
Because maybe
Yeah.
it's meant that for the
That's
7th
correct.
year...
It is. Well, what it's really meant is that people should realize that money's not theirs at all. Okay, but that's a hard
But
hard
maybe
sell.
not with the takana.
We'll
we're
never
not
learn
getting the
it.
message.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. What can I tell you? You're right. Sometimes it feels that way. I'm not debating it.
Wait, the rule is every 7 years a debt is forgiven.
Forgiven 100%. And it's
then
not 7 years
then
after the debt.
the
Es un
takana.
ciclo.
It's un ciclo
Tipo,
for
ahorita
the
estamos en el
whole.
año 4.
Exactly.
Entonces,
Ok.
en el año sexto nadie prestaba plata, porque ya se va a vencer y no me la van a pagar. Entonces, se paralizaba la economía. Entonces, para evitar eso, dijeron, no, si hay una manera de que la deuda va al juzgado y te la devuelven, es como un lujo y si te la van a pagar para que la gente siga prestando.
Sí. But really, that's a fault in the people. The people should have trust and all these kind of things, but they weren't having it. So they needed to make certain fixes. And there's many of those. It's not, but what's very important to note, I wouldn't say always, 99% of the time, it's very clear that that's what it is. So if you understand the oral Torah, you'll know that this was added by the rabbis. Anybody who studies it well knows that this is added by the rabbis, and this is what it says from the Torah. What we refer to that is midrabanan or midoraita. Does it come from the rabbis, rabbanan, or does it come from oraita, which is Aramaic for Torah?
What's the first word? Min.
Mi,
Mi.
from.
Mi. From.
Yeah, it's a prefix that means from.
Mi Rabanan.
Mi de rabbanan or mi de oraita. And anybody who studies Talmud for 5 minutes already starts to get that sense. So that's one area where they made additions. Another area is they literally added mitzvahs. This is not a
The takanot is one thing, and the other one is a
mitzvah. Right. Okay, so a mitzvah would be, for example, there's really only 7 of them that were added by the rabbis. One of them,
Lighting out the menorah.
lighting a menorah. Anytime we'll make a bracha on something which is midrabanan, that means they added a mitzvah. So lighting a menorah, hearing the Megillah on Purim, that doesn't come from the Torah. The Purim story doesn't happen for another 500 years or 600 years. 500. No, wait, 800 years. Yeah. Washing our hands for eating bread.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was al-ha.
It is halacha, but it's
Oh,
midrabanan.
Mhm.
All of
Oh,
this
that
fits
was
in halacha.
from-
It is?
From the Torah, yeah.
No,
I
but not
thought-
from the Torah.
Ah,
Not from the Torah.
washing our hands.
Yeah, there's a total of 7 of them, but let's not go into detail. I mean, that's what it basically is. Okay, the third area, because I want to get to the book already. The third area is application. So here, it's not added by the rabbis, but it didn't come explicitly from Moshe either. So you need to apply the Torah to a new reality, whatever the reality is. Okay, obviously in our generation, it's happening 24/7 because our generation technology is making it that we need to have these applications. So I'm not suggesting that the applications are midrabanan or midoraita, but I am saying that the application is just a human opinion of how to apply it. You know what I'm saying? It's not directly from Moshe. Let's use electricity as the best example.
Didn't he know everything that was coming?
Let's say yes, but he didn't say it. He didn't say when they invent electricity in 19 whatever or 18, the late 1800s, not invent, when they learned to harness electricity in 18 whatever, this is what you should do on Shabbos.
No, but you can also say that he knew or he created these rabbis with special capabilities and
Okay, so
let
that
them reach to a position of
the
leadership that they could make these decisions.
the important thing to know is that this is not miraculous. Torah is not the only part of Torah that's miraculous is the part that came to Moshe. Okay, everything else is human. There's a story in the Talmud of a debate about a particular subject, and there was one rabbi going against many, and the law is one against many, the many wins. But this one rabbi was sure of himself, so he says, "If I am right, let there be a bat kol." That means a voice from heaven to say that I'm right. Yeah, because for AI, exactly. And that's what happened. A voice came from heaven and said, Rabbi Eliezer is who it is correct. Rabbi Eliezer is correct. And the other rabbis said, cool, but we're still not listening. Because that's not the rule. The rule is the majority, and our minds are not changed by a voice from heaven. We still maintain our opinion. Maybe if the voice from heaven came and explained why your opinion is correct, maybe we would be convinced.
So we can change the oral Torah.
No, we can apply the oral Torah, and in the application, it's human beings. So again, the best example that I can think of is electricity and Shabbat. Electricity and Shabbat. There are certain elements of electricity and Shabbat that are most likely mida oraita. For example, if you know anything about the way electricity works, as a matter of fact, we just to make this a little more decent for the holidays, we used to have these wires were all in a big circle right over the thing over there. We're gonna cover them, paint them, or something. I don't know, just to make it a drop nicer for the meanwhile. But the person who came to look at it said the fact that it's in a circle is already a problem because it causes more heat. So the fact that electricity can cause heat, it doesn't have to, by the way, in highly controlled circumstances in a laboratory, you can use electricity with no heat generated. But the fact that the way we use electricity causes heat already could put it into the world of fire. You know what I'm saying? And that's a real thing. But let's pretend that didn't exist. Let's pretend that we were in a perfectly controlled environment and there's no fire involved in electricity. And as a matter of fact, there is one of the great rabbis of this previous generation who maintains that electricity is not a problem from the Torah. It's only a problem based on certain things from Midrabanan, which still for us would mean we wouldn't use it, but it means that there's certain leniencies that could be applied under certain circumstances. If it's from the Torah, none of those leniencies apply. If it's from the rabbis, there's certain leniencies that could apply. But what is electricity? I don't know. What is it? We all think we know what it is, but we're not. It's just neutrons flying back and forth, or I think it's electrons. Electrons, what's called electricity, that go.
Clearly, you can say
right.
whatever because we're like.
Right, exactly. That's my point. So what is it? So how do we apply it? The application of that was not told to us by Moshe. It took rabbis in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and then they were debating it all the way until this rabbi who passed away in 1980. They were, how do we apply this?
That's what it keeps alive, the Torah.
Of course. That's definitely part of it. The fact that it's a living
That it
reality.
changes, that it adapts.
But we have to understand, nothing changed. We just need to apply it.
Apply it.
It's application.
Right.
So that's the third area where the rabbis, I don't want to say they added, because the first two is literally added, but they added to the body of it because it's an application to something that was not discussed explicitly.
Right. Like a phone.
Right. Yeah. Or our computers or all these things. So these are, question marks that have to be answered. We have a medical halacha today, a lot of conversation. Okay. There's a lot of conversation. What is the time of death? Somebody just asked me the other day about organ donation.
Mm-hmm.
So the basic theory, and I don't want to get in detail because now we're really getting off in the weeds, but the basic theory is you should be able to donate your organs after death. Because although it is correct that you're supposed to be buried whole, that value is much lower on the totem pole than the value of saving a life.
Mm.
The value of saving a life is much higher on the totem pole than being buried whole.
Right.
The main problem, not the only, but the main problem with organ donations, and that doesn't mean it's never possible, is the medical society today has the both the financial, emotional, and a different way of thinking, but reasons to harvest the organs too early. And
What is that?
if you want to take a heart from a person who is dead, okay, you're going to call his death 5 minutes earlier
Because you need the heart.
because you need the heart.
That's killing.
And that's killing. And that is not, we don't look at the 5 minutes of life of this person as being more important than the 500 minutes of life of the other person. That balance we don't agree with.
Right.
In other words, it's not mathematical. A life is a life, and you cannot take one life to save another life. Unless the one life is threatening the other life, that's
heart
different.
cannot be donated.
I didn't say
No,
most
maybe,
likely not,
maybe
but
there could be a kosher
there is.
institution
There is,
that,
there
that
is,
will wait the 5
there
minutes,
is,
that will
there's
take the
a-
risk of.
There's a group called HODS, HODS, Halachic Organ Donation Society. And the Halachic Organ Donation Society, you carry a card. And the card, instead of your license that says, I want to be an organ donor, you carry a separate card. And it says, I want to be an organ donor, but you need to reach out to my rabbi or to somebody from this organization to make the decisions of
What's
What's
halachically
what's
right.
halachically right.
Wow.
Yeah?
Wow.
Yeah.
I had it on my driver's license and I took it out because
So
You
you,
learn
but you
that.
can now. Even there's still debate. Okay, and I just gave you the problem with the medical.
Yeah.
Okay, but in that definition of death, there is debate among modern rabbis trying to come up with that, because our instruments that we're able to measure certain things with are much different than was described. There is a description in the Shulchan Aruch, which we'll get to maybe even today still. There is a description in the Shulchan Aruch. Yeah, but things go quicker here
Uh-huh.
because this is all philosophical that we've been describing. You know what I'm saying? It's not technical. Okay, so all I'm saying is that the third area where there's a lot of input from the rabbis is application. But almost all of this, if you're not even a high level scholar, if you're just pretty well learned in this topic, in the oral Torah, you know right away what you're dealing with. Is this something that comes from Moshe? Is it something that was made up by the rabbis? Is it something that is interpretation of the rabbis? This is pretty well understood once you're swimming in this ocean.
After.
I have a question. Can someone say I believe in the Torah and I don't believe in the oral Torah?
In theory, a person could say whatever they want. We live in the United States of America, except now there's a whole list of things you can't say anymore. But that's a whole nother reality. But yes and no. There are people throughout history that did that. We call them the Karaim. Karaim means from the word, or Karaites in English, Karaitas in Spanish.
Solo creen en la Torah escrita.
Right.
Okay,
Kara
so
means
about the Torah.
Kara means
Okay,
the verse. So they are versites. They only believe in what it says in the Torah. The main problem with that is it doesn't make any sense.
No, I'm talking more like a regular person that says, okay, yeah, I
Yeah, but then you're
believe in
missing.
the Torah, but I don't
Really,
believe what the rabbis like.
Right,
A
so
rebel person.
so what I'm trying, of course, anybody could say what they want. I'm not going to take away your free
Everyone
will.
follows.
But the main problem with that, first of all, the problem is if you believe in the Torah, why wouldn't you believe in the oral Torah? I mean, it's all part of the same picture. Throw the whole thing away. What do you need it for? You know what I'm saying? The way it was given, like, why would you believe in the Torah? I don't know. Why should somebody believe in the Torah? That's stupid. Came 3,000 years, 800, whatever, 3,300 years ago. Some guy spoke to God. Like, that's weird. Why would you believe it at all? Whatever the packaging that brings you the written Torah, it's the same packaging that brings you the oral Torah. It's not two separate packages. It's one package.
No, but I
No,
think if you have,
I'll fight
I
you
don't
guys on
wanna
this
say
one. Don't worry
common
about it.
sense, but if you like to argue, not argue, but if you want to
Sure.
question things,
Okay.
I think it's very valid to question all these little details that were
course.
human made, and you can decide not to follow because you don't agree. I mean, you can just trust the system and say, if that's the way it was or that's the way it is, okay, I'm gonna follow it. But there are things that
So your
Maybe-
question is broken into three parts, though, or two parts. One part is the stuff that was added by the rabbis. Do I have to listen to that? But what we've been describing is that 95% of all mitzvot are only explained in the oral Torah. So Shabbos, forget electricity. Just to know that there's 39 things you're not allowed to do on Shabbos, where does that come from? All it says in the Shabbos is
No,
Lo
no, I'm
Taseh
not talking
Melacha.
about that. I'm talking
but
about.
she is.
Okay.
Yeah, she wants to know the whole picture,
Okay.
the whole oral Torah.
No,
So,
but, for
so I'm saying
example,
you have to divide your question into smaller pieces. One piece is the oral Torah, which is all of the mitzvot essentially. One piece, and how to do them. One piece is the things that were added by the rabbis.
right, for example.
And then one piece is the things that are being applied by modern rabbis. You know what I'm saying? So there's three different pieces here, and you have to look at each piece separately.
Right.
You could make, really you can't, and I'll tell you why in a second, but you could make a more logical argument to say that I don't trust the rabbis of who are sitting in Bnei Brak today figuring out if electricity should be used or not. I could see that argument. Okay, but let's put that to the side for a minute. That's the smallest of the pieces. It's a tiny piece in this big picture. And then you could say, and I don't think that the rabbi should have the right to add a new mitzvah. Okay, that's still a small piece. Not as small as the other piece, but it's still a small piece. And then you want to say, and I don't think that any of this came from Moshe. So those are the three pieces that we have the conversation
people
about.
that follow everything blindly, without questioning, without like.
I'm
If
a
a
fan.
rabbi says you cannot touch the tablecloth, then they don't touch the tablecloth.
I think that's the right way ultimately. But I get why that's bothersome. I get why that's bothersome. The reason I would say it's the right thing, I'm being a little facetious, but not completely, is because I don't want to I don't want to insult anybody.
They know better than you.
For the most part. In other words, there are so many details, and to really know all of it is very, very difficult. Even big rabbis don't know all of it, but most people in the world know almost none of it. So you'd rather err on the side of the rabbi probably knows what he's talking about.
Thing about this woman rabbi, so you cannot always listen to like a rabbi.
No, I think, and that was my question is, before it was clear, all the Jews were in one place, there was a Sanhedrin, it was like easier to follow. Now, we're everywhere. And who is the rabbi, right? And why is it, I don't know, you mentioned the rabbis in Bnei Brak, but like nowadays,
I'm just
the
using an
application
example.
part, I don't know if we can still add applications, but then
It's a good question. That's
Everybody
that's a very valid question. That one makes life quite complicated
right?
in the
Because
Orthodox
I
world.
think at the time
Yes.
it was more concentrated
Yes,
and clear
yes.
who the
Absolutely.
No,
Gedolim
there are
were, right?
organizations.
Yeah, but even
Yeah,
so,
but
why do
now-
I trust that organization?
No,
One thing
even
when
now
it was-
Chabad follows different
Yeah,
things.
yes,
than-
yes.
and
Fair
this and
enough.
this and this.
Okay, let's
So
hold
does it
that question.
become 5 religions.
Let's hold the question. I'll give you the simple answer now, but the important answer later. The simple answer is yes and no. No is, as I described way back when in this conversation, 95, and that's a total made up number, 95%, there's no debate even in the Talmud.
Yeah.
Now, some of that 5% can feel like a lot, but it's not if you look at the body of knowledge. So 95% of knowledge, there's no discussion about, even in the Talmud. And just made up numbers. 5% in the Talmud is really what almost all the Talmud's about, is the 5% of discussion. That's Talmud. If you want to start looking at application, well, then comes custom. Custom is where a lot of the differences are, and it's just custom. And custom, I say they're important, but they're not anywhere in the same level of halacha in terms of importance. Complicated what I just said, but just take it because it's not exactly true.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, you have interpretation of halacha. That's different than custom. Even interpretation of halacha, we're still kind of broken into some streams. Okay? But that we're going to see really from what's coming. But nonetheless, that application is so minute in terms of body of knowledge. It has big implications, but it's very minute. So it does not feel at all like a new religion. It just does from the outside, not outside meaning, but it feels if you're not in the conversation because it has big implications. I'll give you a simple example of that. Is Bet Yosef. It's a certain kind of kashrus level.
Yeah.
And you'll have a friend over, maybe. You have a perfectly kosher home, but you're not using Bet Yosef meat. So they're going to eat all the vegetables at your table, but they're not going to eat the meat. And that already feels like they're part of a different religion. And that's a real feeling. You know what I'm saying? Because here we are, 10 Jews sitting together, and I just made a beautiful meal, and they're picking at the asparagus. Asparagus is another question. Okay, it is.
Why?
All these
Because asparagus has very, very high levels of bugs in them. Very high
I
level
follow
and very
on
difficult.
Instagram, the OU kosher
Right.
organization, and they post like all the
Yeah.
details. And they were talking the other day about how onion, if you cut it with a meat knife,
Yes.
it's meat.
But that's halakha.
Okay, I want to get to the bottom of that.
That's halakha. That's not, that comes straight from, well, that would be rabbinic. But that comes straight from the Talmud, is what I'm trying to say. But that's halakha. That's not, there's no debate. Ashkenazim, Sfardim, everybody agrees with that.
So you need to have, well, of course.
Yeah.
Right, but you have to know which
Before we
vegetable.
only have Ashkenazim Sephardim. Now I have my aunt. She lives in DC, and she goes to a liberal, traditional, or whatever she
Yeah.
wants to call a temple, but it's not reform. No.
So you have many options there. Again,
And I have like a discussion with her, like, what do you mean liberal? For me, it's like she could go and touch and read from the Torah. She
Right.
did it.
right.
No,
So that's probably conservative,
Conservative.
most likely. I don't know for a fact.
Sí, es que conservative y reform son diferentes.
See,
And what's about Joseph? What's the difference? Or just quickly?
if I could give you just
I know.
so you see, no, just understand to what degree this is a detail of a detail of a detail. The question is, on a
No, she
lung
didn't
of a
believe
cow,
she could do that.
on a lung of a cow, you're meant to check for a certain defect. And the question is, when you check for this defect, to what degree do you need to check? It's basically what it is.
So the Bet Yosef is the real
This-
checkers of the lung.
Yes.
Wow.
And the other ones don't check the lungs.
No,
they
everyone
check,
checks the
they
lung.
check, but when?
No, how?
How? Detail.
Right. So, for example, what it is just I don't want to go into the detail, but there's adhesion. The lung, what they do is they literally blow it up. Now they have machines that blow them up, and then they put their hand over the entire lung, and if the lobes of the lung are connected with certain adhesions, you're allowed to do certain things to see if that adhesion is permanent or not. And that in that checking process, there's a debate between the Bet Yosef, which we're going to soon learn about, and others like the Ramah, which we're going to soon learn about. And people who follow Bet Yosef are following the ruling of the Bet Yosef, which he was Sephardic, so that will almost always be Sephardim who follow the Bet Yosef on that topic. And by the way, the checking of the lung is what we refer to as glat. If you hear of glat kosher, glat is a Yiddish word that means smooth. So
Lung
glat
smooth.
kosher is the smooth lung. Bet Yosef is an even smoother lung.
Wow.
And then you can have a lung that's been checked, but is not perfectly smooth, which is not glat kosher.
And pork?
Do you understand? Pork, you can have Bet Yosef pork. I'm just kidding.
Wait, so
That's for Sfardim who don't keep everything.
So wait, you can have a non-smooth.
Yeah.
You can have a non-smooth.
No,
lung
so-
that is kosher.
It's not what we call smooth, but it's still smooth enough according to certain opinions.
It's not black kosher, right? It's kosher.
It's kosher.
Chavo, que mal usado.
Let's see.
I thought black kosher mean.
I'm telling you.
another- Yeah.
So today it's used in all even the word kosher is not used in its proper term for another conversation.
Kosher
You don't
supervised.
follow you
No,
don't
no.
follow Bet Yosef.
But we try to eat only Lubavitch Shchita, which means it was only slaughtered by Lubavitch rabbis.
And where do you buy that?
Most here in Florida, it's not a big deal. I grew up in Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh, we were not careful about Lubavitch Shchita at all because it wasn't available. Here, you could get whatever you want. Everything's available. We live in a place where
But
kosher is.
how do you check in the packaging that it's?
It'll
It's
say
Bet Yosef
yeah.
is
No, that I
No,
know. But
Lubavitch
Lubavitch
Shchita.
Shchita.
Lubavitch Shchita, it'll have one of two different symbols. CHK. Look at for the CHK. You'll see it. Almost everywhere you go, they'll have something that's CHK. Okay, that means Crown Heights Kosher. It's the organization, and then there's one other one that's there's two Lubavitch certifying, whatever. That's just stuff. But I'm saying that's not.
Wow.
But now you're dealing with details of details of
Real.
details.
Yeah.
It feels like we're creating these subcultures, and they do exist. But when you understand the body of knowledge, it's edges of edges.
Right. The question is, if you don't eat Bet Yosef, are you eating kosher?
According to the Bet Yosef, maybe not.
Wow.
But according to all basic opinions, which we have some of the greatest rabbis, 100% yes. So,
But there's always
Is
another
kosher
layer.
binary?
no, I guess not.
No, I'm asking. Like,
I guess not.
I don't
I
know.
mean,
like,
yes
you know,
and no.
like today,
Yeah.
like if you eat, yes, kosher meat, but you'll eat a salad somewhere, you know, like.
And nothing is binary. And
Nothing is binary.
No, except for men and women.
Non-binary.
No, men. Oh, I wasn't able to say that. I'm sorry. It's not on the thing. Okay. Anyhow, let's get to the books. I hope we got some of the.
We did.
Okay, because it's important to get it. So when we hit these books, you're going to understand what's going on. Shisha Sidre Mishnah. This is- There you go.
But wait, I have a question.
Okay,
Before you
I give
continue,
up.
the
No, go
Gemara,
ahead.
the Gemara and the Talmud.
We're not there yet. Almost there.
Wait,
Almost there.
okay. It's just that when you talk, I need
Yeah,
to
yeah.
know where I am.
Mishnah.
Es
The
el
Mishnah.
Es el unzipping del Mishnah.
The
Ahorita.
Mishnah. The 6 orders of the Mishnah. I guess we did write something about it already.
Yes, we did.
Okay. It was first written about 100 years, a little less. No, wait. Around the destruction of the second Beit HaMikdash.
What?
And the reason
Mishnah.
it was written was
He
because
talking about in that moment.
the system was looking like it might break down, and it has 6 orders
The second temple.
at the end of the second temple, after the destruction of the second temple, just after the destruction of the second temple.
That's when it was written.
That's when it was written. So it looks like the system was breaking down. So a Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, sometimes known as Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, said, I'm going to do something that's against all tradition and against everything that we were taught, and that is we're changing the system.
But that was
A big deal.
a big
A
deal.
big deal. That was about as big
That's
a
our
deal,
reform.
almost, except everyone agreed with him.
Right, but it's
Yes, that's almost at that level. It is. And it's
like saying that, like, if you think about it at that time, I'm sure people were not agreeing. Like, there was a group that did not agree
so
with him.
he had the advantage that he was the head of the Sanhedrin. So he had a little bit more say, but I don't know what the debates were on the topic. I don't know. But I'm sure it was not simple, and it was not simple for him. I'm saying this was a decision that was taken.
And
Very-
at the time, there was no prophecy anymore, right?
No official
Okay,
prophecy.
sí.
Not
Yo
official
escribirla.
prophecy.
And he said, I'm going to write down, but when I write it down, I'm not going to write it at length.
He said,
He doesn't say these
Purposely.
words, but yes.
to keep a little bit of these details out so we can learn.
Not only that, what I'm basically doing is I'm creating a study guide.
Yeah, study guide.
You know those ones that they sell like
Yeah. Rincón del
for
Vago.
college, right? They say, huh?
Rincón del Vago was
Okay,
like
that's
a site where
yours?
you read the
Right.
summary of the book.
So we have we have English ones that are the same.
Mhm.
I forgot there's the Cliff Notes is one of them. There's a couple of these. That's what it was. It was not
No, that's-
meant to be taken and just read with all the information and now you know everything. No,
Mhm.
it was still meant to be taught
Like an
the same way as everything else was meant to be taught. Only now we're going to have the basics
Mhm.
completely in a official version. Remember, I told you before, people were writing down their own versions,
Yeah.
but it was never official. This is the first time we have an official version written version of the oral Torah. And that's what the Mishnah is. And when you read Mishnah, by the way, on this wall, it looks like a lot because there's a lot of interpretation, but this is an English version of the Mishnah, but it has tons of interpretation. So the actual text, this is a simple English version of the Mishnah, but even this, the actual text should be about half of it. And it has Hebrew and English, so it's really a quarter of it. Okay? It's 6 volumes. And the 6 volumes are Zman Nakat. Zman stands for Zmanim. Ozraim, I got it wrong. Okay, Zraim, which means seeds. Moed, which means times.
Zman, no.
Is Zraim. I made a
¿Qué
mistake.
es?
Zraim,
Seeds.
seeds. Moed means times. Nashim means women. So there is a book about women after all. Nizikin means damages.
So everything that is here.
Kadashim means
Oh.
holiness, kind of. Taharot means, again, we don't have a proper word for it, but purity. Okay, let's call it these things.
Wait, dímelo otra vez. Shraim es
Zeraim.
Zraim es seed. Moed es seasons.
Yeah,
Luego Nashim es
women.
woman. Luego,
Damages.
¿pero cómo se llama?
Nezikim.
Okay, Zman is Zraim, Moed, Nashim.
que es
Nakat
holy.
is Nizikin, Kadashim,
Taharot.
and Taharot.
Purity.
Zman, Nakat. That's the way to remember the 6.
¿Cómo
Ah.
es? ¿Cuál es el acrónimo?
Zman, Nakat. It literally means a time was chosen, but Zman, Nakat.
Ah.
Okay, now these are called Sedarim, a Seder. That's why it's called Shisha Sidre Mishnah. If you take the acronym of Shisha Sidre, it's Shas. So people will ask, have you learned Shas? I mean, have you learned the whole? Really, they mean the whole Talmud, not just the Shas. But these Sidarim are further broken down into Mesechtot. Sechtot. A Mesechta is singular. Mesechtot is
¿Cuál es la
plural.
primera palabra?
¿Cómo?
Megestot o gestot.
Mesechtot. I figure since it's a group of women, I'll take the book of women.
That word
The
is-
Seder, the order of women. Seder means order. This is the order of women. And these are the Mesechtot. One is Yevamot. One is Nidarim.
Wait, Mesechtot son como los chapters.
Son como libros. Imagínate orden de libros con capítulos con Mishnayot. Lo vamos a
No.
decir.
No me perdí.
Okay.
Y eso habla de la mujer.
Okay, en verdad no habla de la mujer, habla de la familia. Family law in this book.
Okay.
All family law, marriage, divorce, the unusual religious crazy things that we do. Yeah, that's all fits in this book. Comes from this book.
Perdón, los
Mesechtot. Singular mesechta.
¿Pero qué son?
You ask somebody who's learning Talmud, which we're going to come to in a minute, you ask him, which mesechta are you learning?
Okay, so which
It's a libro, it's a book, a book.
O sea, each of these is a mesechta.
No, each of those is a seder. A seder is an order,
That
has many books, 5 to 10, probably 10, imagine 10. Each order, like the order of women,
Es una
has-
categoría, un tópico.
exacto,
Pero son 6 tópicos.
Sí.
6
Shisha,
tópicos,
Shisha, Sidre y Mishnah.
exacto.
6 libros, 6 órdenes.
Órdenes.
Tiene-
Cada
Tiene-
orden tiene un
un
libro,
libro.
libros.
Ok.
Los libros se llaman mesechta.
So what's the
Seder is we call it a book, but it's a group of books put together.
So we have 6.
We have 6 orders,
¿Cómo se llama?
and
Ana, sí.
each order is made of mesechtot, of books.
Ujú,
Each book has chapters,
ujú.
and each chapter is subdivided into mishnayot,
Yeah, I am on each order. It's made of
books, mesechta.
mese.
Each mesechta is made of chapters, and each chapter is made of mishnayot. So, for example, let's see, ketubot, that is the laws of the marriage contract, not just the marriage. There's another one which is
Importante tenerlo.
What is the last word you said?
Siempre pienso que se me
Mishnayot.
perdió.
it is important to put it
Que
somewhere.
tú vas.
Yeah.
Tiene que tener tu mamá.
No, tú en tu casa. Es importantísimo.
Sí.
Ah,
Oh,
yo
no,
sé que
la mamá puede ser, solo que lo sabes que ella tiene
Sí, sí.
bien
Mi mamá la
guardada.
tiene
No, pero a mí me dijeron que si la tienes que tener en tu casa.
Mejor, puede ser, whatever.
Why?
Another question. We'll get there.
Mi que tú siento que es like so. Can you redo your que tú Like
Yo también, fea.
es horrible.
No,
Bueno,
so este no
es
importa.
un
No importa.
No
certificate.
importa.
Es un diploma.
Sí,
Sí, pero
There are people who
Ay, que
even
lo que
are
dices-
against this whole thing of making beautiful ones that you hang
sí.
up on the wall. I'm not saying they're right, but there's people who feel that that's because that's not really. It's really a contract. You don't hang up your
No.
you don't
Your business contract
your
with
business
a
contract
partner.
on the wall, right? You know what I'm saying? That's not what it's for. It's a contract, and the advantage of having it on the wall is that
Yeah,
you know it's there.
where it is. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Okay. So here,
Hay que tener ese librito al lado.
this is the book of Ketubot. So it says on top of it,
Mhm.
Ketubot. Okay. This is chapter 6, Mishnah 1.
Mhm.
Mishnah 1 is just this short piece. Mishnah 2 is this piece.
Mhm.
Mishnah 3 is this piece.
muy increíble.
You add up all of them put together. This is 4, 5, 6, 7. And now we're up to chapter 7. So they're almost like paragraphs. A Mishnah is like a paragraph. A chapter is 6, 10, 12 paragraphs. And
Son pasú.
What do you study most in yeshiva? I think I asked you
it
this.
depends which years. But really, we're not learning enough Mishnah.
We're not.
No. But you normally jump to Gemara too quickly. So the most time in certainly a medium to advanced yeshiva, you're spending in Gemara.
Gemara.
Pero Gemara is that
Plus.
plus.
Exactly. That's what we're going to hit right now. Okay, so you understand how Mishnah works?
Talmud de Gemara.
Yeah. I'll give you the short version of Talmud
Sí.
now. Yes, I'll give you the short version of Talmud now. And then next week we'll take over from there and probably finish it. Okay. you don't
So
believe
when
it?
you ask a rabbi, you have to trust that they know all this.
No. You have to trust that they know enough about your particular question to give you a proper answer. Okay. In other words, there's a lot of information here. I'm not an expert
Yeah.
on the book of Nashim. I know some things in the book of Nashim. And certainly when it comes to actually perform a wedding, I've studied the details of performing a wedding. But if there's going to be problems like in World War II, in the Holocaust, there were terrible situations where a woman has no idea if her husband's alive. Is she allowed to get remarried? That's not for people like me. That's for rabbis who know what they're talking about.
No, but
I'm saying-
when rabbis decide a specification, like I know like when in their career do they decide what they?
There's specifications.
Sort of. Yes and no.
I mean,
That's
there's
for another.
rabbis
Let's
that
come back.
dedicate to kashrut. There's
Right,
rabbis
like
Yes.
that dedicate
like
to
Yes, yeah.
No, or like
Shochere,
in
you need
knowledge.
specific training.
No, that's a
But
capability.
you're
But
right.
I mean, like in knowledge, like there's rabbis
Yes,
that are
yeah,
experts
yes,
in
correct,
Taharot,
Correct.
or
Correct.
in,
Yes.
eh,
Yes. 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 There are.
in,
There are.
Es tu posgrado.
Algo así.
Especialidad.
Algo así. No es exacto, pero algo así. Okay. There's two more books underneath the Mishnah that are from the same time as the Mishnah, the Braita and the Tosefta. I'm just going to tell you briefly. They're kind of like, this is not correct, but I'm going to use the words just to give you a understanding. These are the things that were left out of the Mishnah. Okay, it's not true. It's more complicated than that. But consider them as the same era, same style. They'll follow the same, to a certain degree, the same mesechtot, but they're not considered as perfect as the Mishnah, if you want to use those words. They're a little bit, sometimes have more information. So that's why we use them sometimes.
Why do I think Braita has like a Chabad connotation?
No. Only because Tanya begins with a Braita.
Right? Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But that's
You
not,
say
it's not really true.
considered as-
It's not really true.
No, it's true that it begins with a Braita, but much of the Talmud will be discussion of a Braita that looks like it's contradicting a Mishnah.
so why we
And then
never
they're
hear
gonna-
we never hear.
You're only
the
going to
word
hear the word
Braita.
Braita and Tosefta if you study Talmud,
Sí.
because a lot of the Talmud is going to be looking at these three texts and analyzing differences, similarities. That's going to be a lot of the.
So can you give us an example of something that's in a Braita or a Tosefta that it's not in the Mishnah, like something?
Nothing's
that is
coming
in
to my
those
brain
books.
right away. But if you, as soon as you open a Talmud, you'll see within one page Breiter Tosefta. In other words, on almost every page, you'll find a reference to a Breiter Tosefta and how it interacts with the Mishnah.
And the purpose of the discussion is to align on
Or to decide that one is right or wrong, or to decide that they're really talking about different topics, or to use a proof. You have a question about something in the Mishnah, and you're going to bring a proof from a Breiter Tosefta.
So if the whole Talmud is
Just by the way, it's very rare. I don't know people who they exist, but most people I know don't study Breiter and Tosefta on their own.
Yeah.
They study Talmud.
Okay.
But people do. There are experts who have this particular interests, and they do. But it's very unusual. Very unusual, such a thing.
That the whole Talmud is a discussion on validating or I don't know if the word is on validating one of the three.
No, I wouldn't. I didn't mean it like that. I mean to say when you one of the possible discussions is when you see contradiction.
Right, that contradiction.
So the contradiction can have many ways to resolve. One way to resolve the contradiction is to see that they're actually talking about different topics. Because it's so short. So you have the ability to say, no, that is referring to this, and this is referring to that. And now what you've done is you've clarified the law even better, because now you see there's the distinction, and you could have two possible resolutions. That's one way.
So you think it is more validated because the outcome of that discussion then is what it came after to the Shulchan Aruch.
No, well, that comes even later.
So the discussion, does it end in
the discussion ends in the Talmud.
Ends in the Talmud, but does it end as a conclusion? Like this is
mostly,
it?
Not always. And then there's rules of what to do when it's not clear. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that people have no clue what's going on, but it's quite impressive actually. Okay, I guess I'll just say this about the Talmud for today, and then next week we'll go into more detail. The Talmud was the discussions primarily in two yeshivot. There were more, but primarily two yeshivot about the Mishnah, the Brisa, and the Tosefta.
The discussions between two yeshivot.
In two yeshivot. One yeshiva was in Bavel. Oh, it's not true because in Bavel there were really two or three, but I'm simplifying for the moment.
Yeah, in two yeshivot about
the Mishnah, the Brisa, and the Tosefta. And the other one was it wasn't in Jerusalem, it was in Israel, but they call it Yerushalmi. The other one was in Israel. The Israel one was written about 100 years before the Babylonian one by Rabbi Yochanan. And the Babylonian one was written, but then added to for an additional couple hundred years. There was a written form, but then things were added to it over the next 200 years after that. Talmud Bavli. So the Talmud Yerushalmi is concluded. I'm making up a number because I don't remember. I'm going to say 400 of our modern era. And the Talmud Bavli is concluded, not written, but concluded about 250, 300 years later. Let's say 650, 700 of our common era.
And the Talmud, was it written by one specific person?
So that's what I'm telling you. The Yerushalmi was written entirely by one person.
Who?
I think it's Rabbi Yochanan. And the Bavli is written primarily by two people, Ravina and Reb Ashi. But then it was added to by a group that he actually says the Rabbanan Savorai. That's the next little box. But they, in addition to whatever else they wrote, they also added a little bit to the Talmud itself.
When you study Talmud, you study both?
No.
Most people who study Talmud study the Bavli.
See.
Yeah. So this is the Talmud Bavli. It's incomplete. We got this set given to us. It's missing probably 5 volumes. So you probably have 75% of the Talmud is here. We will next week. I wanted to. I don't know. Should we stay in this?
Yes.
Yes. Because I wanted to.
I think this is a really good basis for that we don't have.
Here is the Talmud. This is all explanations.
Wow.
The Talmud has Mishnah, that little piece, and then discussion, Gemara. Mishnah, then Gemara. Sometimes on one Mishnah, you can have 15 pages of Gemara. Sometimes you'll have 3 lines.
It's clearer.
Okay, yeah, or there was less
Wait,
discussion
ya
for
va,
whatever
esto me
reason.
lo voy a hacer así.
But that we're going to do that next week. We'll go into the
okay,
Talmud
wait.
stuff. I just want to get the basic picture.
Wait, Talmud Bavli, you said it's not really in Babylon.
No,
It is. Talmud
In Babel.
Yerushalmi was in Israel, but not in Jerusalem.
And it was written by this Rabbi Yohanan and Rabbi Ashri and Ravina, but it collects a discussion of more rabbis than
Yes,
just them.
absolutely. It's a collection of conversations.
It's a collection of conversations.
That's right. That's exactly what it
And
is.
then when you study it, you keep on.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
It's a
And then at the end of the
never-ending
day,
conversation.
It's all conversation. That's why I say, I think that the original, it worked. The fact that this is supposed to be an oral tradition, it worked. Because now
We're
you
keeping-
have people who still are discussing. It's not books that you have, this is the answer, and that's the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
It's a conversation. And we converse still till today. It's a profound thing. Yeah, I guess we'll hold here.
Yo creo que veía a alguien caminando por ahí.
No, there's somebody cleaning up.
Ah.
We're doing a massive cleaning inside, outside, getting ready for the holidays.
Wait, and these two, Talmud
Bavli and Yerushalmi.
are different. Like, what are the differences between them?
First of all, the the Bavli is written in mostly in Aramaic. Up until now, everything else was written in Hebrew. This is the first. Well, not everything. There's some of the books of the book of Daniel. It has some Aramaic in it, and one more book has
But
some
don't you
Aramaic.
think it loses some of the...
Meaning.
No. There's...
The holiness.
Yeah, it's a holy code language, right? Like
Yeah.
what from the Torah. So if you write in Aramaic, does it lose? Even
Good question.
even the Mishnah part is in Aramaic.
Mishnah is Hebrew.
Mishnah is Hebrew, and the discussion is in Aramaic. In
The
Bavli-
Talmud Yerushalmi is Hebrew. The Bavli is Aramaic.
And we
only the
study
discussion.
Bavli,
The Mishnah part is
No.
Hebrew.
That's right.
Yeah.
and that's the one we mostly study, the Bavli.
The Aramaic one.
So
So to
people
really-
learn Aramaic.
Absolutely.
You know Aramaic.
I know how to read it and understand it
Wait, which Talmud do
mostly
Is it
study?
useful?
Bavli.
for,
Just
to study Talmud. And to
Wait,
The kids
sorry,
in
why
Yeshiva
this?
learn Aramaic.
Yeah.
Where did Aramaic come from? From Babel.
that's a long
Oh.
conversation. Long conversation. It was used a lot in Babel. There is opinions that said that Adam and Eve spoke to each other in Aramaic.
It's no un dialecto.
In other words, it's very related. You
It's
can
very
see.
related.
Yes.
Yes.
For example,
Tengo un set de-
Zaken, which is a beard in Hebrew, Dikna in Aramaic. So you have the Kuf and the Nun is the same, only the Zayin changed to a Dalet. Zahav, this is just examples, there's many other, but Zahav is Dihav. So it's Dalet, the Zayin changed to a Dalet, and the Hey and the Vet stayed the same. So it's the same, many of the same words, but with different pronunciations, and it's a dialect. It's a
It's a
dialect.
dialect of Hebrew.
Okay, let's say so.
Wait, so I have a question.
I'm not expert in
So you
this.
say that most people that study Talmud today, it's Talmud
Bavli.
Bavli.
Yes.
Why did this one win over this one?
There's 2 reasons, and there's reasons. This is one of the reasons to study Yerushalmi as well. But it's more. One is the fact that it came later, which means that it knew
More.
of what was discussed in the Yerushalmi. So this is additional to what's in the Yerushalmi. Secondly, is it's expanded, which means that there's even more information, more discussion. So whereas the Yerushalmi might be more concentrated, which is an advantage too, the Bavli is more amplio.
So it's not that they were like written at the same time. Like they were written at the same time, but then the Bavli.
But the Bavli is written
Jumped
later. The
on.
Bavli is written 100 years after the Yerushalmi. But so it's kind of like almost, it doesn't include everything, and you can have debate between Bavli and Yerushalmi. There's debate sometimes, and there's some things that will only be covered in one and not in the other. Mostly it's the Bavli and not the Yerushalmi, because the Bavli comes later and is
What?
more expansive.
What is Babel today?
Babel today is Iraq.
So they're far from each other.
Depends what you mean by far. You can take a horse and get there in a day and a half.
Not
And
far.
and there was plenty of constant travel. Yeah. So these were two communities that were in, but it's the place where the Jews were taken
Yeah. From
after the first temple, and even through the entire second temple, that was the biggest concentration of Jewish people.
Babel.
Babel. So that's why it
But
became
wait,
such an
la
important
Torre de
center.
Babel, it's not about.
Antes, fue mucho antes,
Ah, wow.
pero el mismo lugar.
Ah, okay.
Fue la época de Noah.
Claro.
Okay, so estamos hablando 2,000 years before, but the same place.
But it was all about communication, the problem that they had.
No, but there was communication. You'll find in the Talmud, for example, especially in the Babel, Oimrim b'Marava. They say in the West. The West means Babel. No, the West means. No, the other way. The West means Israel. Okay, Babel is east of Israel. Right. The West. Or they'll say, because it's being written in, or they'll say, so and so came from Jerusalem and said, not Jerusalem, from Israel, doesn't use the word Israel either, uses a different word, and said, blah, on this topic. And Mrs. Rosenberg. Just finishing up here. Good job. Yeah,
Okay.
we got somewhere. It goes much quicker, by the way.
Wait, I wanna do.
We still may
something,
need two.
so-
I was hoping one, but we still may need two.
Wait, so look, this is the page of the Talmud. So this